There's also this thing called archetypes, right? Now you have different levels of archetypes. You got deep fucking archetypes, which exist in every culture and every time period because it's just deep patterns within the human narrative, and we call these archetypes, right? Now you got the hero, the mentor, etc. This is the highest level of archetype because it's the most fundamental. It's the reason why a whole bunch of different characters and a whole bunch of different shows are basically stemmed from the exact same archetype, and we feel as if we know these characters. We felt like we knew Uncle Lyra. We felt like we knew Jiraiya because they played the archetypal role of being the mentor, while Naruto, while Zuko, while Deku played the role of being the student. These narratives also exist, and if you're able to signal a narrative like this, it's going to be absolutely cracked. Or you can just live within these narratives and they show you a way in order to exist. You can take the hero's journey, you can take the mentor's journey, you can take the fallen hero's journey, you can take the anti-hero's journey, the Sasuke. You can take a whole bunch of different journeys and you can embody these different modes of being based on the archetype which already exists within us. Now, people disagree of where these things stem from, so I'm just going to talk about exactly what they are and how to use them in the first place. But that's tier 1 archetypes. Now, let's get lower. Now you got tier 2 archetypes. This is cultural archetypes. This basically means a narrative which is going to be special within the confinements of the culture that you're being seen. That's where the model archetype, the influencer archetype, the NBA archetype, the Division 1 basketball player archetype, all of these positive archetypes exist in the confinements of the culture which you're seen as. Now, if you're able to signal one hard as fuck, you're going to have the prototypical effect. And if somebody's going to see you signaling a positive archetype, they're going to associate you with the positives of that specific archetype. This is the contrast of stereotypes. This is what I'm saying. This thing isn't a good or a bad thing. You can use this shit to your favor, or it can be used against you if you allow it to be. You can either be seen as a bad stereotype or as a positive archetype, or as a bad or as a positive stereotype or a fucking bad archetype. Basically, it's just depending on what you're able to signal in the moments that you're able to be perceived. And by this, people are going to derive certain narratives. And if you're able to just truly signal a positive archetype, you're going to be seen as fucking fantastic because they're going to associate the positives from every other person that embodied the mode of being of that archetype to you. The issue is that if you deviate from the positives of that specific archetype, you're going to have the ick effect again. But if somebody sees you embodying that archetype, you're going to be seen as fucking fantastic, which is why Division 1 basketball players at every school always pulls the most. Football players always pull the most. You know, rappers, singers, all these niggas always pull the most because they embody the modes of being of these positive archetypes, and they're going to be seen as being synonymous with these archetypes. This is also why these niggas who embody the stereotypes get sent to jail hella fast. They get fucking brutalized and shit. They get shot. They get basically just treated as if they're just automatically repulsive because they're signaling a negative archetype or a negative stereotype. Basically, this all is depending on signal coherence, and it's up to you in order to signal the way in which you want to be perceived. But you got to understand the game first before you start using the tools in order to get what you want out of the game in the first place, or to help somebody out in the first place. But the thing is, you got to first admit that you're in a game that is fully predicated upon narrative signaling. But the reason why tier 1 archetypes are so important is that these deep narratives already exist deep within the human psyche. So once you see these characters like a Deku, a Naruto, a Luffy, that's just embodying these certain archetypes, we're going to basically feel as if we know these niggas. We're going to feel like, damn, we know these people. We know the pattern. We know the road that they're taking. You might just think to yourself, why do all these different stories always take very relatively similar paths? It's because these archetypes already exist deep within the human mind, and we never get tired of seeing them once done and curated in a positive fashion. And fucking 1,000 years from now, humans are still here. They're still going to make movies about the hero's journey because that thing is always constantly lived out every single day by many human beings and deep within the human psyche in the first fucking place. And since that's the case, we'll never get tired of these kinds of stories. And the more fundamental a story is, the more fucking outlandish it is, the more we're going to get attached to it. Is why anime is so big right now, because they embody these archetypal stories while simultaneously making them interesting as possible. You know, Luffy's son Wukong, all of these other characters played relatively similar roles, basically just freedom fighters, except they're doing it in different ways. It's the reason why you can tell the exact same story hundreds of different ways, because the deep fundamental aspect of the story is the heart, and we're using the narratives behind everything as the limbs. The heart pumps the blood into the limbs and allows everything to move, and it depends on how good these limbs are and how strong these limbs are for how strong the story is going to be. But as long as this fundamental aspect is there, that story has the ability to skyrocket. That's why archetypal stories like the ones from Disney, like the ancient stories, like the cultural stories that match other cultural stories that just only differ in the specifics, like the names and shit, have the deepest effect on us once we read them, because they already exist deep within the human psyche. So I'm telling you, this tendency to see narratives is deeply ingrained in us, and the degree of the narrative that you're going to embody will be to the degree that you're able to be perceived by the people who are perceiving you. Basic psychology. You got this shit.